I'm sitting here with Ms. Powers. Hi, Ms. Powers. Okay. And I'm now going over your observation recap. Before we actually go through it, could you just restate or summarize what your lesson was?
Our lesson was on printmaking.
Mm-hmm.
We learned about sunsets. We are learning about painting procedures, printmaking procedures. We learned about sunsets and silhouettes, how we
Mm-hmm.
can combine the two to learn the different techniques that we need to learn for the rest of the school year.
Nice. Okay. So, with that, what was something that you think went well about the lesson?
I gave clear, precise directions,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone knew what their first steps were.
Mm-hmm.
I taught them how to blend the colors together to create new colors, and
Mm-hmm.
all of them successfully completed that step of the painting project.
Mm-hmm.
They completed I would say about 95% of them did the correct procedures when it came to
Gotcha.
painting, like
Mm-hmm.
painting in the same direction, how to use the brushes,
Mm-hmm.
and the specific types of paints that we were using. Using up the entire paper, creating proportional balances with,
Mm-hmm.
so bringing in the old terms that they were using and applying them to this lesson.
Okay.
So they were successful at going back and
Mm-hmm.
coming up with those.
Nice. And when you stated that 95% were able to get done, that's an accomplishment in itself that they were able to get that done within that time gap. For the ones who didn't meet that time frame, was there anything you did specifically to catch them up?
Yes, so whether that have been they were taking their time, which is not a problem or
Mm-hmm.
anything, I made sure to have those materials ready for them the next class,
Mm-hmm.
or for the kids to get started immediately while we were learning what the next steps were.
Mm-hmm.
Or those kids who finished early, they created extras for
Mm-hmm.
those students who weren't there for that
Mm-hmm.
class period and didn't have the time to get caught up. So there were extras to be provided so that we were all on the same page
Nice. Okay.
the next class period, and that there was no one
Gotcha.
behind on any
And
steps
then
of
this
the
one obviously
projects.
builds onto the next lesson and then the next.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because one thing that I noticed that I actually thought was pretty great was the fact of how you were able, how the students were engaged in the lesson. You didn't have behaviors, and it wasn't engaged like quiet compliant. Well, I'm quiet because I
Right.
don't want to get into. It was like, oh no, I want to learn more. Hey, how do I do
Yes.
this? How do I do that? And I thought the engagement piece I felt was key because if you can engage a kid, you can kind of teach them anything.
Yes. And if if they thought something wasn't blending appropriately, they didn't just be like, "All right, I'm done."
Yeah.
They asked me, "What is this right? Or can I do this part better? How do I get?" Because they were able to use two colors, starting with like red or red at the top, blue at the bottom, and they had to blend it in the middle, or red at the top and yellow at the bottom, and blend in the middle.
Gotcha.
And if one color had majority of one color or not, they wanted to figure out how to make the appropriate balance. Again, referring back to what we had learned before, like how do I not fix this, but how do I make this more balanced?
Right.
How do I get this more of this color and less of this?
Right.
Like they didn't just be like, all right, that's good enough. It was like
It's doable.
it's doable, but no, they like, am I blending it right? Am I
Mm-hmm.
using enough water, enough paint? So
Um,
that was
Nice. I like to lead with two positive and one thing to work on. I thought another thing that was great was you were using what we call rigorous language, where you weren't saying, "Hey, make sure you mix the color," blending, right? Or, "Hey, make sure that you got an even amount. It's balanced. It's I forgot proportionally balanced," and I love that. Um, I did want to hit one item though, and that's the one that I felt. I'm gonna be honest. As you can see, most of your score was three and fours. The main one for that three that I felt could be a four was I noticed that when you used rigorous language and it's meeting kids on their level, did you being able to go about and teaching it multiple ways or finding multiple paths, right? So if I don't know what blended is, did you ever say, oh well, Blending is to mix paints like this, etc. You know, like
Ye-
tiering the instruction, or just I meet you on your level.
Instead of assuming that they know what that
Yeah,
language means,
right,
yeah.
right. So looking at that, what's something that you would do for the next lesson? Nice watch, by the way. What's something that you would do in the next lesson?
Well, start off with like those hit vocabulary words that we are going to be using in technical and making
Hold on
sure
one second. Hold on. Stay focused. Thank you.
making sure that they do know what those key terms and keywords are, so that they can apply them. Because if I just am saying them, they don't know what that means. Then how are they going to apply it
Right.
to the
Right.
to the next lesson when we're using that? So just
Right.
making sure that they and asking like checks for understanding would probably have worked in that
I agree.
aspect
I agree.
for sure.
That absolutely
So,
would. I mean, and it don't have to be. I think the one thing about your class, I think it's amazing that my kids be in a hurry to get out of my room. Like they check the clock to remind me. So it's clear that you have that engagement with students. So you don't even have to have an engagement conversation. So you can use multiple strategies. You know, fist to five, thumbs up, thumbs down, tell a friend. And I thought one thing that would be great with it. I'm not an artist, so I can't pretend as a principal to know what an artist is. My job is to hire a great artist, so I don't have to know, right? But some kind of way of engaging the group. And what I mean by that is turning talks or group discussion. Hey, take a quick 30 seconds and tell your friend what are you doing or why are you doing. Just so that way, that's more enrichment of language.
Yeah.
That way that now when you ask, I may not have known what it was at first, but now that my friend Johnny told me, oh, that's perpetual, cuz, or whatever. So that's something that I would love to see going forward. Could you think of one way, it's one of those questions, one way where that would be helpful for future lessons, or how that would build engagement for future lessons, like the group talks or what have you?
well, it's less of me just talking at them and them having buy-in in what they are learning and
Absolutely,
what they are about to do.
absolutely.
And brings it more of just like an individual art space to like a group working on it and as a group, because like art is subjective, right? It's different for everyone. So if they're talking,
I didn't know that. I know now.
yeah.
Okay.
So like if they like, just because I look at something and think it means this, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you think. So it's good to get different opinions, so then we can bounce different
Absolutely.
ideas and maybe build on, change what I'm doing a little bit, but build on it because of maybe an idea or something that someone else.
And I think the challenge for you, where different teachers you challenge different, I think the challenge with you is that you're so likable that for your students it's easy for them. Like I've seen it a couple times, it's so easy for them to get sucked in on my friend versus, oh man, okay, I gotta work. Right?
Yeah.
And
You have a hard time differentiating,
Yeah,
separating the two,
yeah.
and finding when the appropriate time to be one versus
right,
the other.
I agree. But I think that's a good problem. That's one
That's
of those,
not a bad
right,
problem.
that's one of those good problems.
But-
It's like having too much food.
Yes.
But with that, I do thank you for letting me come into your class.
Of course, anytime.
Paying attention. So if there's anything I can do, let me know.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Ooh, wow, that's